Listen carefully. This is not an ordinary moment. This is not another voice among many voices competing for your attention. This is a divine interruption. While you were scrolling, while you were thinking this was just another message, God arranged this exact moment for you. Heaven has pressed pause on your distractions because what you are about to hear is urgent. God is not whispering today. God is calling with authority, with purpose, and with precision. If you have ever wondered whether God sees you, whether God remembers you, whether God knows the weight you are carrying, then hear this clearly. God knows your name, God knows your season, and God knows exactly why you are listening right now. There are moments when God allows noise, delay, and pressure to surround you, not to destroy you, but to awaken you. Many people mistake silence for absence, but silence is often the moment when God is preparing the loudest breakthrough. You have been asking questions in your heart that you never spoke out loud. You have been saying, God, how long? And God, why does it feel like nothing is changing? God heard every word. God saw every tear that fell when no one else was watching. And now God says, listen carefully, because this moment is not random. This message is not late. It has arrived exactly on time. God is calling you back to alignment, not to religion, not to routine. Alignment. Because when your life is aligned with God's will, even resistance works in your favor. You have been pushing doors that God never asked you to open. And you have been ignoring doors God has already unlocked. God says your exhaustion is not from effort, it is from misdirection. You have been spending strength on battles you were never assigned to fight. And now God is saying, come back. Stand where I placed you, move when I say move, rest when I say rest. There is urgency in the Spirit because time is precious. God does not waste moments, and neither should you. Every delay you experience is not denial. Some delays are protection, some delays are preparation, some delays are mercy. If God had answered you earlier, you would not have been ready to sustain the answer. God cares not only about blessing you, but about keeping you. And what God gives, God intends to last. Hear this deeply. God has not forgotten the promises spoken over your life. You may have forgotten them. Circumstances may have mocked them. People may have doubted them. But God does not forget. What God speaks does not expire, it waits. And now God is stirring that word again. You are stepping into a season where excuses will no longer work. God is calling for obedience, not explanation. Faith, not fear. Movement, not delay. God says you have been living beneath what was prepared for you. Not because God withheld it, but because you stopped expecting it. Expectation is the doorway of faith. When expectation dies, faith weakens. When faith weakens, vision fades. And when vision fades, life becomes survival instead of purpose. God is restoring your expectation. Not false hope, but grounded confidence that says, if God said it, it will happen. There is an urgency because God is about to accelerate what was slow. What took years to build in pain will shift suddenly in favor. But acceleration requires readiness. God cannot rush someone who refuses discipline. God cannot pour into a vessel that refuses to be positioned. That is why God allowed pressure to shape you, to empty you of pride, to remove dependency on people, and to teach you to trust God alone. God says, stop measuring your life by what you see. Sight is limited. Faith is eternal. Many of the greatest movements of God began when everything looked impossible. When resources were low, when strength was gone, when hope seemed unreasonable. That is the environment where God works best, because no one can take credit except God. You have been waiting for a sign, but God has been waiting for surrender. You have been asking for clarity, but God has been asking for commitment. You cannot hold on to fear and expect peace. You cannot hold on to control and expect guidance. God says, release what you cannot manage, and I will release what you cannot imagine. This is urgent because the season you are entering will require courage. God is about to expose what is not aligned. relationships that drain you, habits that limit you, thoughts that poison your faith. God is not doing this to hurt you. God is doing this to free you. Anything that cannot go where God is taking you must be left behind. This is not loss. This is preparation. God says your past does not disqualify you. Your mistakes did not surprise God. Your failures did not cancel the calling. God knew every weakness and still chose you. Grace is not permission to stay broken. It is power to be transformed. And God is calling you higher than comfort, higher than familiarity, higher than fear. There is urgency because procrastination is costly. Delay hardens the heart. Tomorrow is not promised, but obedience today opens doors that time cannot close. God is not asking you to understand everything. God is asking you to trust. Faith does not require explanation, it requires action. When you move, God moves. When you step, God supports. When you speak, God confirms. God says, you are stronger than you think because I am with you. The strength you need is not coming, it is already within you. God placed it there. Every trial refined it, every tear watered it. Every moment you thought you would break, you actually grew. And now God says it is time to stand. Not as a victim of your past, but as a vessel of purpose. Listen carefully, because this is a turning point. God is shifting your perspective. What once intimidated you will no longer control you. What once delayed you will now propel you. What once confused you will now clarify your direction. God is ordering your steps, even when you cannot see the path. God says, stop speaking death over your future. Words have power. What you declare repeatedly becomes what you believe. And what you believe shapes how you live. Speak life. Speak faith. Speak expectation. Align your words with what God has already spoken. There is urgency because people are connected to your obedience. Your breakthrough is not just about you. Your courage will inspire others. Your faith will unlock doors for generations after you. God never blesses selfishly. Purpose always reaches beyond the individual. When you rise, others rise with you. God says, do not underestimate small beginnings. What looks insignificant now carries eternal weight. Faithfulness in the unseen is what qualifies you for the visible. God watches what you do when no one applauds. Integrity matters. Obedience matters. Consistency matters. You have been praying for change, and God has been changing you. You asked God to remove the struggle, but God used the struggle to remove what was harming you. Now God says, look again. What you thought was a setback was a setup. What you thought was rejection was redirection. This message is urgent because the window is open. Seasons shift. Opportunities move. God is giving you discernment to recognize the moment. Do not let fear talk you out of what faith brought you into. Fear is loud, but it is a liar. Faith may be quiet, but it is true. God says, I am restoring your confidence. Not confidence in self, but confidence in God. When you know who God is, you stop doubting who you are. Identity flows from relationship. And when you walk knowing God is with you, intimidation loses its power. There is urgency because God is calling you to deeper trust. Partial obedience delays full blessing. God is not interested in half-hearted devotion. God desires your whole heart. Not perfection, but surrender. Not performance, but faithfulness. Listen carefully. God is repositioning you. Where you stand now is not where you will remain. The discomfort you feel is the signal of growth. Expansion is uncomfortable. Transformation is demanding. But what awaits you is greater than what you are leaving behind. God says, I am about to silence the voices that doubted you, not by argument, but by evidence. Your life will speak. Your peace will speak. Your consistency will speak. God does not need to defend you. God will demonstrate through you. This is urgent because alignment brings acceleration. When you move in God's timing, things fall into place with divine speed. What you could not force for years will suddenly align when you surrender control. God is reminding you that you are not alone. Isolation is a lie the enemy uses to weaken faith. God has surrounded you with unseen help. You are supported, you are guided, you are protected. Listen carefully, because God is asking for your attention, not your perfection. God works with willing hearts. If you say yes, God will handle the rest. If you trust, God will provide the way. This moment matters, this decision matters, this obedience matters. God is calling you out of hesitation and into action, out of fear and into faith, out of survival and into purpose. God says, rise, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now, because readiness is built in obedience. Strength is revealed in movement, and favor follows faith. What God has begun, God will complete. What God promised, God will fulfill. What God ordained, no force can cancel. Stay aligned, stay faithful, stay listening. That God is drawing your attention to the weight of choice. Every moment you stand at a crossroads, even when you do not recognize it. Silence is a choice, delay is a choice, fear is a choice, and faith is a choice. God is reminding you that destiny is not accidental. It is cultivated through obedience. You do not drift into purpose. You decide into it. The life you are becoming is shaped by the decisions you are making while no one is watching, while applause is absent, while progress feels invisible. God sees those moments, and God measures them carefully. There are seasons when God removes the noise so you can hear truth clearly. Distraction weakens discernment. When your spirit is overwhelmed, it becomes harder to recognize God's direction. That is why God is calling you to stillness, not inactivity, but awareness. Stillness sharpens perception. Stillness restores alignment. Stillness allows you to hear instruction instead of assumption. God speaks with clarity to those who are willing to quiet their impatience. God is challenging the way you have interpreted struggle. You thought struggle meant you were off course, but many times struggle confirms that you are moving in the right direction. Resistance often appears when purpose is near. Pressure is not proof of failure, it is evidence of significance. God does not invest refinement in what has no future. If you were insignificant, there would be no resistance. If you had no assignment, there would be no opposition. God allows pressure to expose strength you did not know you had. God is also confronting comfort. Comfort can be dangerous when it replaces calling. You were not created to live small, to think small, or to settle quietly. God formed you with intention and breathed vision into your spirit. Comfort dulls hunger, and hunger is essential for growth. God is awakening holy dissatisfaction in you, not to make you ungrateful, but to keep you moving. Gratitude honors where you are, but vision pulls you forward. You've been asking God to make things easier, but God is making you stronger. Ease does not build endurance. Strength is forged through persistence. God is developing endurance in you because what is coming will require stability, not excitement. Emotional highs cannot sustain long-term purpose. God is building depth so you will not collapse under the weight of blessing. What looks like delay is actually reinforcement. God is speaking to your identity. You are not what you survived. You are not what failed. You are not what people labeled you. You are what God declared. Identity rooted in God cannot be shaken by circumstances. When your sense of worth comes from God, approval loses its control, rejection loses its sting, and comparison loses its power. God is restoring clarity to how you see yourself, so you stop negotiating your value. There is a call to responsibility in this moment. God does not force destiny. God invites partnership. You are not waiting on God as much as God is waiting on your response. Heaven responds to obedience, not intention. Good intentions without action produce nothing. God honors movement even when it is imperfect. A willing step matters more than flawless planning. Trust grows through action, not analysis. God is teaching you how to walk by conviction instead of emotion. Emotions change quickly, conviction anchors deeply. If you live led by emotion, inconsistency will follow. If you live led by conviction, stability will define you. God is forming conviction in your spirit so you remain steady when circumstances shift. This stability will protect you when storms come and keep you grounded when success arrives. You are entering a season where discernment will be critical. Not every opportunity is from God, even if it looks good. Not every open door leads to purpose. God is sharpening your ability to sense alignment rather than chase appearance. Peace is not the absence of challenge. Peace is the confirmation of direction. God's guidance often comes with calm assurance, even when the path is demanding. God is reminding you that obedience sometimes requires separation. Not isolation, but distinction. When God elevates you, certain connections naturally change. Some relationships were seasonal, not permanent. Holding on to what God has already released creates unnecessary struggle. God removes to protect, distances to preserve, and redirects to advance. Letting go is not betrayal, it is obedience. There is also a call to integrity. God is watching how you handle small authority before trusting you with greater influence. Character matters when no one is correcting you. Integrity is who you are when compromise is convenient. God builds lasting influence on integrity, not talent alone. Skill can open doors, but character keeps them open. God is shaping your inner life to sustain your outer calling. God is addressing your thought life, what you allow to remain in. Our mind eventually shapes your reality. Persistent negative thinking weakens faith. Fear-filled imagination limits expectation. God is calling you to discipline your thoughts, to challenge what contradicts truth, and to align your thinking with what God has spoken. Renewal begins in the mind before it manifests in life. You have been underestimating the power of consistency. God values faithfulness more than intensity. Short bursts of effort do not replace steady obedience. What you do daily matters more than what you do occasionally. God multiplies consistent faith. Small acts of obedience, repeated over time, create powerful outcomes. Do not despise the routine. It is where strength is built. God is also reminding you of accountability. Purpose thrives in responsibility. When you take ownership of your actions, growth accelerates. Blame delays transformation. God is empowering you to rise above excuses and take responsibility for your response, your attitude, and your direction. Maturity begins when you stop waiting for conditions to change and start allowing God to change you. There is urgency because clarity brings responsibility. Once you hear truth, you are accountable to respond. God does not reveal direction to entertain. God reveals direction to activate. This moment is not for observation, it is for alignment. You cannot unhear what God is impressing on your spirit. What you do next matters deeply. God is cultivating courage in you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite fear. Fear does not disappear before obedience. Fear loses power after obedience. God meets courage with support. Each step you take strengthens the next. Do not wait for fear to leave. Move and let courage grow in motion. God is reminding you that humility attracts guidance. Pride resists correction, but humility welcomes instruction. When you remain teachable, God continues to lead you. Growth stops when humility stops. God is not looking for those who know everything, but those who are willing to learn. A humble heart remains flexible, and flexibility allows God to direct your path. You are being prepared for influence. Influence is not about position, it is about impact. How you live speaks louder than what you say. God is shaping your example so your life communicates truth, even without words. Your consistency will become a testimony. Your endurance will become a message. Your transformation will become evidence of God's work. God is also addressing patience. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active trust. While you wait, God is working. While you remain faithful, God is arranging details you cannot see. Impatience pushes prematurely. Patience positions wisely. God's timing protects you from outcomes. You are not ready to manage. Listen carefully, because God is affirming that you are seen. Even in moments of obscurity, God's attention has never left you. Recognition from people is temporary. Recognition from God is eternal. God rewards what is done with sincerity, not visibility. Stay faithful in hidden places. Promotion comes from God alone. God is refining your motives. Why you pursue matters as much as what you pursue. When motives are pure, purpose remains clear. God is removing mixed intentions so your actions are aligned with truth. Purity of motive brings clarity of direction and strength of resolve. This season is shaping your spiritual authority. Authority is not loudness, it is alignment. When your life aligns with God's will, your words carry weight. Your presence brings peace. Your decisions reflect wisdom. God grants authority to those who submit willingly, not reluctantly. God is reminding you to guard your heart. What you allow to settle in your heart influences how you live. Bitterness hardens faith. Resentment clouds judgment. God is calling you to release what poisons your spirit so you remain free to move forward. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is freedom. You are being trained to trust God beyond outcomes. Faith that depends on results is fragile. Faith rooted in God's character is unshakable. God wants your trust anchored in who God is, not just in what God does. This depth of trust sustains you through uncertainty and strengthens you through transition. God is stirring discipline within you. Discipline creates capacity. Without discipline, potential remains unrealized. God is empowering you to structure your life in a way that supports growth. Order invites peace. Consistency builds momentum. Discipline is not restriction, it is direction. There is urgency because momentum is building. You may not feel it yet, but alignment is creating movement beneath the surface. God is assembling resources, adjusting circumstances, and positioning people. When the moment arrives, preparation will meet opportunity, and movement will feel sudden, though it has been forming quietly. God is reminding you to remain grounded. Elevation without grounding leads to instability. Stay rooted in truth. Stay connected to purpose. Stay dependent on God. Independence weakens alignment. Dependence strengthens clarity. Listen carefully, because God is not finished shaping you. Growth is ongoing. Refinement continues. Each stage prepares you for the next. Do not rush the process or resist the shaping. What God is forming now will sustain you later. And what God is teaching you now will protect you in seasons ahead. God is awakening discernment in you to recognize the difference between urgency and anxiety. Anxiety rushes without direction, but urgency carries purpose. Anxiety drains strength, but urgency sharpens focus. God is not pulling you into panic. God is pulling you into precision. There is a divine rhythm to obedience. And when you move in step with God's timing, your actions carry clarity instead of chaos. Learn to distinguish the pressure that comes from fear and the prompting that comes from God. One confuses the mind, the other steadies the soul. God is also revealing the power of restraint. Not every thought deserves a voice. Not every reaction deserves expression. Wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to be silent. God is teaching you that restraint is not weakness, it is mastery. Those who govern their spirit walk with authority. When you choose restraint, you create space for God to act. Silence, when guided by wisdom, can speak louder than argument. You are being trained to trust God in the unseen. Faith that only operates when evidence appears is incomplete. God works beyond your awareness, arranging outcomes before you recognize the process. The unseen is not empty, it is active. Just because you cannot see progress does not mean nothing is happening. God's work is often hidden until it is finished. Trust deepens when you learn to rely on God without visible confirmation. God is confronting the habit of comparison. Comparison distracts from calling and distorts identity. When you measure your journey against someone else's path, you lose clarity about your own assignment. God designed your path uniquely. Timing differs, methods differ, outcomes differ, but purpose remains intentional. Focus on obedience, not competition. Comparison weakens gratitude, but gratitude strengthens awareness of God's provision. There is also a call to stewardship. What God places in your hands matters. Time matters. Influence matters. Resources matter. God observes how you handle what you already possess before increasing your capacity. Stewardship is not about abundance. It is about faithfulness. When you honor what you have, you prepare yourself for what is coming. Carelessness delays increase, but responsibility invites trust. God is reminding you that growth often feels like loss before it feels like gain. When old patterns break, discomfort follows. When familiar structures shift, uncertainty arises. But God is not dismantling your life, God is reconstructing it. Demolition is sometimes necessary to create space for something stronger. Trust the process even when it feels unsettling. God does not remove without intention to rebuild. You are also being shaped to lead yourself before leading others. Leadership begins internally. Discipline of thought, clarity of values, consistency of action. God is developing inner leadership so your outer influence remains stable. Those who cannot lead themselves will struggle to guide others. God builds leadership from the inside out, forming character before visibility. God is drawing attention to the importance of listening. Many speak to be heard, but few listen to understand. Listening creates wisdom. Listening reveals direction. God often speaks through quiet impressions, subtle alignment, and inner conviction. When you slow down enough to listen, confusion diminishes. Direction becomes clearer when you allow space for reflection. There is urgency because complacency dulls perception. Comfort can quietly replace attentiveness. God is calling you to remain alert, aware, and responsive. Spiritual awareness is not maintained by habit alone. It requires intention. Daily alignment keeps perspective sharp. When you intentionally seek clarity, God responds with guidance. God is strengthening your resilience. Resilience is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to recover without losing direction. Life will apply pressure, but resilience ensures you do not abandon purpose under strain. God is building resilience so you remain steady through uncertainty. Stability is a testimony of trust. God is also refining your expectations. Unrealistic expectations lead to disappointment, but grounded expectation leads to perseverance. Expect progress, not perfection. Expect growth, not instant completion. God works through process. Patience honors the journey. When you align expectation with wisdom, discouragement loses influence. You are being prepared to carry responsibility with grace. Responsibility without grace becomes heavy. Grace without responsibility becomes careless. God balances both. Grace sustains you, responsibility grounds you. Together they produce maturity. God is forming maturity in you so you can handle outcomes with humility and strength. God is calling you to guard your focus. Attention determines direction. What you focus on consistently shapes what you become. If your attention is scattered, progress slows. God is guiding you to concentrate on what matters most. Simplify where necessary. Remove unnecessary distractions. Focus creates momentum. There is a reminder about perseverance. Perseverance is not stubbornness, it is faith sustained through difficulty. When progress is slow, perseverance keeps you aligned. God honors perseverance because it reflects trust beyond circumstance. Those who remain steady through challenge develop depth. Depth sustains long-term purpose. God is awakening compassion in you. Strength without compassion becomes harsh. Authority without compassion becomes controlling. God desires that truth be carried with love. Compassion does not weaken conviction, it strengthens influence. When people sense sincerity, they are more open to truth. God is shaping your heart to reflect wisdom with kindness. You are being taught to release the need for immediate validation. Validation from people fluctuates, but validation from God remains constant. When your confidence depends on approval, stability is compromised. God is anchoring your confidence in truth rather than reaction. Inner assurance creates freedom from external pressure. God is revealing that preparation often looks ordinary. Faithfulness in daily tasks prepares you for extraordinary moments. Do not underestimate routine obedience. Ordinary consistency creates extraordinary capacity. God uses simple obedience to build lasting impact. There is urgency because alignment is narrowing your path. As clarity increases, distractions become more obvious. God is making choices clearer. Indecision decreases as conviction strengthens. Trust is narrowing. Focused direction produces effective movement. God is strengthening your patience with people. Everyone grows at a different pace. Expecting others to move at your speed creates frustration. God extends patience to you and asks you to extend patience to others. Patience preserves unity and prevents unnecessary conflict. God is also refining your response to correction. Correction is not rejection, it is instruction. Those who resist correction delay growth. Those who receive correction with humility accelerate development. God corrects to protect, not to diminish. Wisdom increases when correction is welcomed. You are being reminded that faith matures through testing. Untested faith remains theoretical. Tested faith becomes resilient. God allows testing not to weaken you, but to strengthen confidence. Each test passed builds assurance that God is reliable. God is shaping your priorities. When priorities align, life gains clarity. Misaligned priorities create internal tension. God is helping you reorder what matters most so peace increases. Clarity of priorities simplifies decision-making. There is urgency because discipline produces freedom. Without discipline, distractions control direction. With discipline, purpose remains steady. God is empowering you to create boundaries that protect growth. Boundaries are not barriers, they are safeguards. God is also cultivating gratitude in you. Gratitude sharpens awareness of provision. When you acknowledge what God has already done, faith for what is coming increases. Gratitude grounds expectation and stabilizes emotion. It reminds you that God has been faithful before and remains faithful now. You are being encouraged to remain teachable. Growth stops when learning stops. God continues to teach those who remain open. Humility keeps you flexible. Flexibility allows God to redirect without resistance. God is reminding you that endurance creates credibility. Those who remain consistent over time gain trust. Credibility is built through faithfulness, not speed. God values longevity. Stay steady, stay aligned. There is urgency because alignment multiplies impact. When your thoughts, actions, and values align with God's will, influence expands naturally. Effort becomes effective. Direction becomes clear. Momentum increases. God is strengthening your resolve to remain faithful when recognition is absent. Hidden faithfulness prepares visible influence. God rewards sincerity, not display. Stay faithful even when unnoticed. God is confirming that what you are becoming matters more than what you are achieving. Achievement without transformation is incomplete. Transformation sustains achievement. God focuses on inner formation because it supports outer success. You are being reminded to trust God beyond immediate understanding. Understanding often follows obedience. Clarity grows as you move forward. God does not reveal every step at once. God reveals enough to require trust. There is urgency because purpose requires movement. Faith that remains inactive weakens. Action activates belief. God responds to movement aligned with trust. God is shaping you to finish well. Endurance matters. Consistency matters. Completion matters. Stay aligned. Stay faithful. Stay attentive to God's guidance as the journey continues unfolding before you. God is inviting you into a deeper awareness of accountability. Accountability is not punishment, it is partnership. When you recognize that every choice echoes beyond the moment, you begin to live with intention. God entrusts direction to those who respect responsibility. Light is given to those who walk carefully, not carelessly. When you treat your decisions with reverence, clarity increases and confusion loses its grip. God is revealing that alignment often requires unlearning before learning. Some beliefs you adopted were shaped by fear, disappointment, or limitation rather than truth. God is gently dismantling assumptions that no longer serve your purpose. Renewal begins when you allow God to redefine what you thought was normal. Growth requires humility to admit that some paths you followed were familiar but not fruitful. There is a call to courage that goes beyond bold words. Courage is consistency under pressure. Courage is choosing integrity when compromise would be easier. Courage is remaining faithful when results are slow. God is cultivating courage that does not depend on applause. Quiet courage carries great weight because it reflects conviction rather than performance. God is drawing your attention to the power of alignment between belief and behavior. What you say you trust must be reflected in how you live. Inconsistency creates inner conflict. Alignment creates peace. God is inviting you to examine areas where belief has not yet become practice. Transformation accelerates when belief and behavior move together. God is reminding you that wisdom grows through listening more than speaking. Many answers are already present, waiting to be recognized. When you listen with intention, understanding deepens. God often reveals direction through reflection, through moments of pause, through insight that rises quietly. Learn to value insight over noise. There is urgency because spiritual sensitivity must be protected. Sensitivity dulls when ignored. Repeatedly dismissing conviction weakens discernment. God is encouraging you to respond promptly when clarity comes. Obedience sharpens sensitivity. Delay dulls it. Treat insight with respect and act with intention. God is shaping your response to uncertainty. Uncertainty does not mean abandonment. It means trust is being strengthened. When certainty is removed, reliance on God increases. God uses uncertainty to teach dependence. In those moments, faith matures from theory into experience. God is addressing the importance of preparation over impulse. Impulse reacts. Preparation responds. God prepares those who are willing to wait, to learn, to refine. Preparation positions you to act wisely when opportunity arrives. What feels like waiting is often training in disguise. You are being reminded that spiritual maturity includes emotional regulation. Strong emotions are not weakness, but unmanaged emotions distort judgment. God is teaching you to acknowledge emotion without allowing it to lead. When emotions are guided by wisdom, decisions remain stable. God is also revealing the importance of honoring process. Process protects you from shortcuts that lead to regret. Every stage serves a purpose. Skipping stages creates gaps that later require repair. God values foundation because foundation sustains future regrowth. There is a refining of how you view success. Success is not speed, it is sustainability. God measures success by faithfulness, not comparison. A steady path aligned with purpose produces lasting impact. God is freeing you from unrealistic timelines so you can walk with peace. God is strengthening your inner discipline. Discipline creates order, and order invites peace. When your inner life is ordered, external chaos loses influence. God is helping you build habits that support clarity, focus, and endurance. God is reminding you that strength is often quiet. Loudness seeks attention. Strength remains steady. When your confidence is rooted in God, you no longer need to prove yourself. Assurance replaces striving. Stability replaces insecurity. There is urgency because perspective shapes experience. How you interpret events determines how you respond. God is teaching you to interpret challenges through faith rather than fear. Perspective aligned with truth transforms pressure into opportunity. God is cultivating patience with yourself. Growth is progressive. Condemnation slows development. Encouragement fuels it. God corrects with wisdom, not harshness. Learn to extend the same grace to yourself that God extends to you. God is addressing your relationship with rest. Rest is not avoidance, it is renewal. God designed rest to restore clarity and strength. Without rest, discernment weakens. Honor rest as an act of trust, not laziness. You are being trained to recognize divine timing. Timing is as important as action. Acting too early creates strain. Acting too late creates loss. God teaches timing through attentiveness. Stay alert, stay receptive. God is revealing that humility sustains growth. Humility keeps you open to learning. Pride resists change. God continues to guide those who remain teachable. Growth accelerates when humility leads. There is a call to perseverance that extends beyond comfort. Perseverance remains when enthusiasm fades. God honors perseverance because it reflects commitment beyond feeling. Faith anchored in truth remains when emotions fluctuate. God is reminding you to guard your inner dialogue. What you repeatedly tell yourself shapes belief. Replace self-doubt with truth. Align inner speech with faith. God's truth strengthens resolve. God is shaping your response to success. Success tests character as much as failure does. Stay grounded. Gratitude protects humility. Remember the source of progress. God remains the center regardless of outcome. There is urgency because alignment demands attention. Distractions multiply when purpose clarifies. God is calling you to prioritize what nourishes faith and release what drains focus. Simplification increases effectiveness. God is refining your sense of responsibility toward others. Influence carries weight. Your actions impact more than you realize. Live with awareness that your faithfulness encourages others. Responsibility shapes legacy. God is deepening your understanding of trust. Trust is not blind optimism, it is confident reliance. Trust grows through experience. Each moment of obedience strengthens assurance that God is faithful. God is reminding you that resilience is built through recovery. Setbacks do not define you, response does. Learn from what did not work and move forward with wisdom. God uses recovery to build strength. There is a strengthening of resolve happening within you. Resolve is quiet determination rooted in conviction. When resolve is firm, distractions lose power. God strengthens resolve through clarity of purpose. God is drawing you into greater awareness of purpose beyond self. Purpose expands when focus shifts outward. Serve with sincerity, lead with integrity, influence with compassion. God uses purpose-driven lives to impact many. God is inviting you to remain attentive. Attentiveness keeps you aligned. Drift happens gradually, not suddenly. Daily awareness prevents gradual misalignment. Stay attentive to guidance. There is urgency because obedience today creates momentum for tomorrow. Each faithful step compounds progress. God honors consistency, remains steady. God is affirming that your journey matters. Every step matters. Every decision matters. Stay aligned with truth. Stay responsive to guidance. Stay faithful as God continues unfolding purpose moment by moment. This is the moment to respond, not emotionally, but decisively. Let the weight of what you have heard settle into your spirit. God is not asking you to admire truth. God is asking you to live it. Look honestly at your life, at the patterns you have tolerated, at the distractions you have excused, at the delays you have justified. This is not condemnation, this is invitation. God is calling you to rise into alignment, to shed what no longer belongs, to choose faith where fear once ruled, and to step forward with courage rooted in trust. Stand where you are and let your heart speak plainly before God. Release the need to control outcomes and surrender the need to understand every step. Choose obedience over comfort. Choose integrity over convenience. Choose purpose over delay. Let today be the day you realign your thoughts, reorder your priorities, and recommit your life to the direction God has already made clear. You do not need more signs, you need a willing heart. You do not need more time, you need a faithful response. Walk forward with confidence that God is with you, guiding you, strengthening you, and sustaining you. Let your actions reflect your belief. Let your decisions honor truth. Let your life become a living response to God's call. Move with humility, live with courage, and remain attentive to guidance. Carry peace into every step, knowing that when you walk in alignment, nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, and nothing is beyond restoration under God's hand. Let this moment mark a turning within you. Choose to walk closer, to listen deeper, to trust fully. Let faith shape your path. Let obedience steady your steps, and let your life reflect the power of alignment with God.